Hey folks, welcome to Truck King. Today we are comparing a dinosaur with a poser. That right there is the Toyota 4Runner TRD Pro. It's basically existed unchanged since 2010. On the flip side, we have the all-new Honda Passport Trailsport. Now Honda says this thing is off-road ready, but is that true? Well, we're gonna find out. In this video, we're gonna compare them off-road, on-road, and do a long fuel economy run, so make sure you stay tuned. Alrighty folks, we're kicking things off today with a little off-road drive. Now no, we're not at the Ironwood test site up north where we do our testing. Honestly, there's just too much snow. So we're here just at a little local Hydroline access road, which has got, I don't know, Matt, 4 inches of snow on it maybe?
Yeah, and 4 to 6.
Yeah, and just enough to give us a feel for how this Honda compares to that 4Runner. So far so good in the Honda. I should mention right off the top too, we both have winter tires on. That's very helpful out here in the snow. And we did actually break trails with both the 4Runner and the Honda, and both did all right, Matt. Here it gets a little bit deeper though.
Yeah, this is the hairier section here. Honda's gonna be working through here.
I can feel my bumper rubbing. Oh, I can feel it rubbing. Okay, now here's this little tiny off-camber hill climb. Oh!
Well done.
Well, Matt, it feels confident. The grip is there. The all-wheel drive is fine, but I was pushing snow with my bumper. I don't know about you, but I was. I've only got 8.1 inches of ground clearance, only a 21-degree approach angle, and those were the two numbers that I was feeling most. What are you feeling in the Toyota?
Over here, I've got a 33-degree approach angle and 9.6 inches of clearance. So I didn't feel what you were just feeling. My bumper was well up above the snow, and I think we do have a shot of the Honda coming through that section right here where you had a good snowplow vibe going.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, so that's going to let you down in the Honda, the ground clearance for sure. And then the other thing, Matt, is these aren't real whoops, but we are coming up and over here. I can only go, I don't know, 20, 30 kilometers an hour before I've hit top speed, and I'm just getting bounced off the roof here. So the suspension in the Honda is certainly not what I would call off-road plush.
No, it was definitely tuned more on-road. You can see when I broke that first section of trail earlier, I had a couple good bounces where it snapped my head around pretty good versus the suspension over here in this TRD Pro just ate everything.
So the other thing I have here, Matthew, is a snow mode, and I just put it in snow mode, and the thing I felt right away is it seems like it just splits the power to all 4 wheels evenly. You don't get any slippage, and then it also takes a lot of the throttle response sort of out of the pedal as well to make sure I'm not out here slipping. So I appreciate that too. I also know you've got a couple drive modes back there as well.
I also have a mud and sand, and I do believe I have a rock crawl mode. I do have the full suite of the TRD Pro, you know, off-road creep crawl functions as well back here. Yeah. So I don't need them today. We're not in that deep a terrain. But you also came into this with all-wheel drive. Now I am currently running in 4 high. And that's more just because I didn't want to have to recover anything today. But in retrospect, I probably could be doing this in 2.
Well, Matt, I think before most of these folks clicked on the video, they probably already knew. Look, the 4Runner TRD Pro is the choice if you just want to go off-road. However, give the Honda its credit. It did do the trail out here today, and after doing what we've just done, here's the difference, I think, Matt. The 4Runner is an off-roader. The Honda here is a rough-roader. This thing is going to do your rough cottage trail, your backcountry road out to a camping site, but no, it's not going to do like the Hydroline in the middle of November like the 4Runner has done. Plus, the 4Runner is body on frame, and I'm unibody, so, you know, if I do beat up on my body too much, it's going to really have an effect. So the durability of the 4Runner will be better off-road as well. So, like I said,
It's a fair assessment.
Yeah. I don't think that's surprising anybody, right? I think everyone kind of knew that stuff. But now, let's go ahead and head out on road, and we're going to do a long fuel economy test. We'll talk about the back seats, we'll talk about storage, and we'll just see in real-world livability, well, which one is better. first up, what do we have here today? This is the 4Runner TRD Pro. Now, like I mentioned, 4Runner's last major redesign was 2010, although TRD Pro didn't come into the mix until 2015. So when you go for 4Runner TRD Pro, you're getting a full set of Fox shocks underneath. They're 2.5-inch shock bodies, and they're internal bypass shocks. Basically, the idea there is to make them best of both worlds. Fairly stiff when you're on road, and then pretty soft when you're off road. Now, you also get a set of tires on this thing when you get it, all-terrains. We don't have those today. We have a set of Blizzak winter tires. Oh yeah, and you also get a 1-inch lift here in the front end just to bring your approach angle up. And then we can't forget about the paint job either. This is the TRD Pro specific color. It's called Solar Octane, and I think it looks pretty good. I've been walking around all week calling this thing the pumpkin. So what do you think of the styling here on the TRD Pro? When you look at the size of these two vehicles, they are quite similar. So the wheelbase here on the Honda Passport is 110.9 inches. The 4Runner is just 109.8. So the 4Runner has a slightly shorter wheelbase, but it's about 2 inches longer overall. Although when you're talking about width, the Honda comes in with a width of 78.6 inches. The 4Runner only 75.8. So the 4Runner is also a little bit skinnier than the Passport is here, although overall they are quite similar in size. Let's talk towing and payload, and the former is pretty good, the latter not so much. So tow ratings on both of these vehicles, 5,000 pounds. That's a really good number for an SUV of this size. Now let's look at the payload. Here on the Honda, 948 pounds on the sticker. Over on the 4Runner, it's an even 1,000 pounds, so it's 52 pounds difference. But honestly, those aren't great numbers. Consider that if you put a 5,000 pound trailer on the back, you're gonna have roughly 500 pounds of tongue weight. You take 500 pounds and you subtract it off of your 948, and you're not left with a lot of weight, 448 pounds, and that's basically 2 people, maybe 3 if you're lucky. So you have to consider that if you're towing heavy, you can't bring a lot into the vehicle with these types of SUVs. Now let's talk Trailsport, and the truth is, compared to TRD Pro, this is really just a styling package. You get a unique front fascia, unique bumpers, you get those Trailsport badges, and then on the inside you get that nice orange stitching. So the suspension remains the same, except for a 10mm wider track. So the wheels and the tires are pushed out just the tiniest bit. That should help a little bit with stability. Now there's 2 things I want to point out that kind of tell you that this is a poser. The first one is the skid plate look front bumper. That's specifically what it says on the build sheet. Yeah, there's a silver kind of accent in the center to make it look like a skid plate, but there's no skid plate down there. And then when you go to Trailsport, you get bigger wheels. That's a nice looking set of 18-inch wheels, but that always sort of tells you, is this a real off-roader? Because if it is a true off-roader, the wheels will be smaller and the rubber will be bigger. On the 4Runner, we have 17-inch wheels. Here on the Honda, we have 18s. So yes, this thing isn't a hardcore off-roader, but I do think it looks good, and I think Honda has really focused on making its styling more aggressive. What do you think? Just based on looks alone, would you take the Passport or go for the 4Runner? Let's take a look at the second rows here in both of these vehicles now. And the first thing I got to tell you, you can see I have my front-facing child seat there. There are 2 outer latch positions, and then there's a single center latch position, but you're going to actually use one of the outer latches as well if you were to put a seat in there. So technically, if you're using lower latch, you're only going to get 2 seats in here, but there are 3 top tethers along the back, so if you do need to seatbelt install, you can do that. Now let me climb in. This is 39.6 inches of legroom, and it's a ton. I mean, this is my driving position, and I have loads of space. My knees don't feel too high, tons of headroom, and I stand at 6'2". This is honestly a spacious and roomy back seat. No complaints on the size of it at all. When it comes to amenities, I am also heated, which is nice. I get my HVAC controls down there, 2 USB ports, and a 3-pronged plug, if I can get it open. It's honestly the tightest cover ever. Anyways, it's under there, I promise you. There's a 3-prong plug. So yeah, second row here in the Honda is quite good. Let's see how the Toyota compares. All right, now we'll see the Toyota. So when it comes to lower latch, we have 1 less position. Here we only have a driver position and a passenger position. And now let me climb in. So this is 7 inches on paper anyways, less of rear seat legroom. Now, I actually do have enough knee room, to be fair. It's definitely less than I had in the Honda. My knees are up a little bit taller, and look, I'm almost on the roof, and if I lean forward, I'm right into this friggin' hump that's right here to accept the cover for the sunroof. So I could sit back here, but if I had to pick one, definitely the Honda is more comfortable and more spacious. And then look down here, I have no amenities besides 2 USB ports, and they're actually both just USB-C ports. So when it comes to the second row, I think the Honda is a clear winner. Plus, in the Honda, you can adjust that seat a couple inches forward and back. Here in the Toyota, you can't do that. Although one of the tricks here is that the bottom of this seat flips up like that, and then the backs come forward. And if I had this set up, you get a nice big flat floor all the way to the back of this thing, which is pretty cool. And actually, on that note, why don't we look at the storage? Here at the back end of the 4Runner, the first thing I'll point out is every 4Runner owner's favorite feature. We always hear about this in the comments. Yes, the entire back glass comes down. Kind of nice if you're quickly just grabbing something out. Or I always hear from dog owners that they love being able to put their dogs back here and having this big open air window for them to stick their heads out. So let's open it up. So the 4Runner here, as you saw, it doesn't have a huge second row. It prioritizes storage space. This is 47.2 cubic feet of storage space behind that second row, and it's quite a bit actually. Plus you get these nice D-rings. You get 4 of them, 1 in each corner. Other features too, a real 3-prong plug right there with 400 watts, right next to a 12 volt, so you have some power at the back of your 4Runner too. This is definitely a functional space pack here. Now let's go see how it stacks up to the Honda. So here at the Honda, no fancy glass here. All you can do is pop the lift gate, but it is powered here, and it was not powered on the 4Runner. That is kind of cool to see too. So this is actually 6 cubic feet less than the Toyota. In practice, it doesn't feel like that much less. It feels very similar. When it comes to the amenities, again, we're actually pretty similar. We do have 4 D-rings here as well in all 4 of the corners back here. We do get just 12 volt power over here. So the 3-prong plug in the Honda is in the second row. In the Toyota, it's in the back. Now, one of the advantages of the Honda, it has underfloor storage. In the 4Runner, you have the spare tire, full-size spare tire, mounted underneath the vehicle. It gets rid of this underfloor storage. Here in the Honda, first of all, we get this nice little storage bin right back here. That's really good for just throwing your groceries in, stuff like that. And then I can't fully open it because I got all my junk here, but there is a temporary use spare tire underneath there. So again, an important difference for off-roaders. The Toyota, exterior mounted spare, but a full-size spare. The Honda, it's just a temporary use spare tire, but it is stored on the interior of the vehicle. Okay, folks, fuel economy test starting right now. When we start here at the gas station, we will fill them up, and then we'll end back here at the same gas station so that we're able to get a good fuel economy test. And there's Matt, and there's the 4Runner. Let's fill up and go. All right, folks, we're pulling out of the gas station now. We've both reset our trip computers, sitting at almost the same pumps, and we're both totally full. So the plan is to go do 100 kilometers, and we will end up back at this gas station, and we'll fill up, and we will do the math ourselves. So we'll be able to see what the computers tell us, and then also what the real world fuel economy is. But Matthew, just like when we went off-road, I don't think we were surprised that the 4Runner is better, and I will not be surprised at the end of this if the Honda is better. I will be very surprised if the 4Runner is. And that's mostly because, look, you've got a 5-speed automatic, I've got a 9-speed automatic. That right there alone should mean that the Honda is more efficient.
I'm also driving a big giant brick through the wind, right? You've got a much more aerodynamic vehicle. I mean, it's also big, but not quite as flat as this thing is.
Sure, fair, and you're taller, and you got that big roof rack. I get roof rails on my Trailsport, but they're not as beefy. So that's certainly, I think both of us were predicting that the Honda will be more efficient, but how much more efficient is a question that we're gonna go answer. As we roll along here, I want to talk about what features we both have in these vehicles. Now, I'm up here in the Passport, Matthew's behind me in the 4Runner. So I guess let's just start by kind of going back and forth, Matt, and I'll see what you have. We know that you have all the off-road stuff that I don't. We went over the suspension stuff, and these vehicles have a couple fundamental differences, right? Like your body on frame, I'm unibody. You are rear-wheel drive based, 4-wheel drive. I am front-wheel drive based, all-wheel drive. The 4Runner has a transfer case with the low range. I do not have a transfer case with the low range here in the Honda. So there's some fundamental differences about kind of the nuts and bolts. But when we get inside and look at the features, Matt, I actually feel like a lot of them are pretty similar. So for example, do you have adaptive cruise control in the Toyota?
I have adaptive cruise, yes I do.
Okay, see, that's a nice feature right there. You have a sunroof, right?
I also have a sunroof. Yeah, remember earlier when you bumped your head against the interior hump?
Yeah, of course. And you have digital gauges, or what kind of gauges do you have?
I've got a combination. I've got analog, RPM, tachometer, and speedometer, but I have a small digital screen in the middle that I can customize.
Actually, the same as the Honda. I have 2 analog gauges on the outside, but my digital screen is definitely bigger than what you have back there in the Toyota. How about a heated steering wheel?
I also do have a heated steering wheel. Now, I will mention, I had to look for the button. It is just south of the push button start by my right knee, kind of buried in the plastic. I thought when I first got in that I didn't have one until I just happened to tilt my head the wrong way, and I went, oh, look at that.
Yeah, they bury it a bit. Okay, so see, we have a lot of, similar features in these two vehicles. Although I do think I have you beat on wireless phone charging. I don't believe the 4Runner has that, right?
I do not have wireless phone charging, and I am equipped here with a single USB port, a 12 volt in the dash, and I have an additional 12 volt down in my console. What have you got for charging?
So I actually have the same thing, a USB up here in the dash, a 12 volt in the dash, but then in my center console, I have another USB and another 12 volt, so I have 2 of each, so one more than you. But now we do have to get to that price, Matt, because the 4Runner that you are driving in costs $66,000 here in Canada, whereas the Passport that I'm in over here is only $53,000. So we have a huge price split here. I think some of it is warranted because honestly, that 4Runner is going to get to places that this Honda absolutely won't go. But on the flip side, we know the truth is a lot of owners will never go off-road. And if you're never going to leave the pavement, I'm not sure it's worth paying all that extra money for the 4Runner.
That's true. And you and I discussed off camera that the next model down from the TRD Pro, there's just a TRD off-road version, which almost brought the price points down to equal. I know that the Toyota was still a little bit more expensive, but it brought them down into the ballpark with each other. And even if we were doing that comparison, I still think off-road, the 4Runner would take it.
Totally. Yeah, no, the 4Runner is going to have better numbers, a better four-wheel drive system. All that stuff will remain better in the 4Runner, even on the off-road. It's just that, yeah, the prices wouldn't have been so starkly different. But you have to say, again, we're comparing the best off-road 4Runner to the best off-road Passport. So if that's really what you're looking at, well then, yeah, you're going to pay for the Toyota. Okay, we're at 51 kilometers, so we're going to change vehicles now. Man, how's it going?
It's going great.
All right.
You didn't take your key, did you?
I don't think so.
Yeah, lots of key management when you do what we do.
Okay, folks, we switched vehicles. We can continue driving. We're on a side road now. We've both come to a stop, and we're both going to put our foot to a floor for about 4 seconds, Matt, just to feel the power, and then we'll comment on it. Ready? On go. 3, 2, 1, go. Okay.
Whoa! I jumped some tires.
Nice.
I was not expecting that.
So I've got to say, the power numbers here, Matt, I mean, you have a little more horsepower, but I actually have a little more torque. And in first gear off the line, the 4Runner hits pretty hard. I would say it hits as hard as the Honda does. The issue is my 5-speed automatic has such spaced out gears that by the time you get that upshift to second, you already start to lose some power, and then I just hit the shift into third, and that's where you really, really lose it. So sadly, I think the power of the engine is still competitive. Obviously the numbers are there, but the 5-speed, it just doesn't keep up. And then the other thing, Matt, the shifts are really big and really jerky. They're kind of big events, whereas I think it's a lot smoother back there in the Honda. What did you feel?
Interesting thing. I went right to the floor. I'm mad at it, and I felt it start to speed up. But then there was this. I couldn't give you a time frame, but I'm going to call it a half-second hesitation, and then it just woke up like a wild animal. That kind of, it was interesting. I don't know what it was doing in that brief layover period, if it was maybe picking a different gear, or if it was allowing something to spool up or moving the timing. I don't know exactly what it was doing to prepare for the throttle event, but it did something and it just took off. And of course, as soon as I hit that 4,000 RPM range and you get that fun VTEC whine as you hear it come on with the engine, that's always fun. Now on the flip side, I could hear your exhaust over my engine, so
yeah, there's no doubt you do get the TRD Pro exhaust on this thing too, and it does sound fairly aggressive, especially when it's at wide open throttle. It does sound pretty mean for a 6-cylinder. Now we have to talk about handling, and what better spot than in these curvy S corners right here, Matt. And this is an area where, what can I say, the Honda absolutely shines. This TRD Pro rolls through the corners, lots of body roll, kind of loose and a little sloppy feeling. And those are the things you want when you go off-road. You want it to be a little bit loose. You want it to be soft to accept those bumps. You saw earlier in the video, when you're beating on it, yeah, it stays smooth. But here on road, it does have that kind of slow to respond feeling. And ultimately, Matt, what that does, it makes this vehicle more fatiguing to drive. There's just more inputs into the wheel. There's a little bit more thinking going on. The Honda just feels better, buttoned down, and solid when you're on road. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, just coming through those corners back there, the all-wheel drive system in this thing, the torque vectoring, it just grabs, it sticks you in the corner. It doesn't have a ton of body roll, but like I saw earlier this morning off-road, when my neck violently snapped back into the headrest here, yeah, that suspension is better on the pavement than it is off.
Yeah, so, you know, some clear differences in the way they drive. And basically what I would say to you is the same as I said before. If you're never going to leave the pavement, the Honda makes all the sense in the world just because of how nice a drive it is. If off-roading is a serious consideration for you, well, then I think the TRD Pro is the obvious choice. But you know what, Matt? The other thing that's going to weigh into your decision is fuel economy. How much are you going to pay at the pump? And we're almost at our 100 kilometers now, so let's head back to the gas station and see which one of these is more efficient. All right, we're back at the gas station, Matt. The same Shell we started at this morning, and we're pulling back into the pumps. So here we are, Matt. Why don't we do the live readout for the folks right now? What does your trip computer say?
Alrighty, so right at the end there, we had to add a little bit of distance because we were short, and I ended up with 101.6 kilometers. And my computer says that I averaged 9.0 liters even.
Wow, nice. So over here, apparently I did just a little less than you. I'm at 101.1 kilometers, and I'm at 11.5 liters per 100. So 2.5 liters per 100 worse here in the 4Runner than the Honda. I think that's pretty much exactly what we expected, right?
That's exactly what we expected. Okay, 3, 2, 1, let's shut them off and let's fill them up.
Well, you guys saw it. Based on what the computer said, I was 2.5 liters more efficient in the Honda, or the Honda was.
The Honda was more
switched.
efficient, yes.
But now we're going to do the math ourselves. So I've got my fuel receipts here, and I'll show you how you do it. So here in the Toyota 4Runner, we used 11.605 liters of fuel. You divide that by the distance, in this case 101.1. You multiply by 100 to move the decimal, and we end up with 11.47 liters per 100, which I'm going to round up to 11.5, which is exactly what the computer said. And that doesn't happen often, that the calculations are the exact same, and maybe that's a credit to the Toyota's fuel computer, although I will reiterate, this is not exactly scientific. It's close, but we're not dead.
It's as close as we can get it today out here.
Exactly. Okay, so how did the Honda do?
All right, so the Honda numbers, we used 10.165 liters of fuel, divided by our 101 kilometers traveled, multiplied by 100, gave us exactly 10.05. So I won't round that one, just a hair over 10.
Yeah.
And now that's an interesting number because the computer over there in the Honda said we ran exactly 9. So the math says we used 1 liter worse than what the computer told us, but still a liter 0.6 better than the 4Runner.
Toyota. So yeah, regardless of what happens, the Honda will be more efficient. We just don't know which computer was kind of right on there. But again, no big surprises here. For all of the on-road livability stuff, the Honda's kind of better.
Yep.
Well, folks, we have come to the end of this video. Now, I do think the conclusion here is pretty clear. If you want to do some serious off-roading, that Toyota 4Runner is going to serve you well. But keep in mind, there was a big price difference here, and the Honda can do just about everything the Toyota can do. It won't be quite as comfortable, but it's decent off-road too. So you need to look at how you're going to use these vehicles. Now, if I was laying down my money, yes, I would get the 4Runner TRD Pro. I know it's a lot more, but honestly, after one weekend going off-road the way I like to go off-road, that Honda would probably be ruined. If I was just driving to my job Monday to Friday, Honda all day. But for me, it's gotta be Toyota. Now please, go into the comments and let me know what you think, because this is an interesting comparison, and I know it really depends on how you use your vehicle. So let me know down there which one you would buy. As always, while you're down below, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, hit join to become a member, and then come right back here to Truck King to see what we are comparing next.